NSJT, no secrets is true. Jezreel, Emil, Kavan. What if everything you know is a lie? What if everything that you were taught was a lie? What if everything that you read you couldn't understand because it was in cryptic language, ancient language, language of which we speak no longer? In the study of etymology, we learn the origin of the word itself, where it came from, how it was derived. If I was to come before you and tell you that the mark of the beast is not a mark that you can see physically, but a mark that is spiritual, what would you say to me? You probably say that I'm crazy, that I lost my mind. But if you look around you, you see that there are those who live off of materialistic things. There are those who are thrill seekers. There are those who tempt fate and dare death to take their lives. The mark of the beast is the power by which the beast used. He used his minions, he used his demons, he laid his traps for those who are tempted by the temptations of life. I say to you today that the mark of the beast doesn't have to be a mark upon the flesh of our skin. It could be a mark that is upon our souls. We have gone through our lives trying to find out what the hidden meanings are in Ezekiel and Daniel and Revelations. We have yet to come up with a conclusion of what it is, so we say that it is mysterious, that we have no clue, but it is spelled out clearly to us that we must stand on the right hand side of God, that we must believe in Him totally and all of our heart. He said He is a searcher of minds and hearts, which means that the mark doesn't have to be upon our flesh for Him to see that we have received the mark of the beast, but He can see it through our heart and our soul, which means that we are vulnerable to be marked by the enemy, by lusting, by desiring after those things that which we should not desire for, that we should not yearn for, the forbidden, the adultery, the fornication. There are things that marks us in the book of life with the disdain that God considers defilement. See, we have moved so far from the Old Testament that we do not understand that back then you were unclean for 7 days after having sex. You are unclean for 7 days after any kind of discharge, whether it's a female on her period, whether it's a male doing his thing. I say to you that the mark of the beast is upon the soul and upon the mind. It is time for us to open our hearts, open our minds, open our ears, open our eyes, and see what lies before us. For we have been deceived by the greatest deceiver there is. If I was to tell you that we live in two worlds at one time, how would you perceive it? We live in a flesh driven world, but yet inside of us we have a spirit driven world. And the prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. It tells you that the things that we do is also done in heaven, that the war is not over. The war has been going on for almost 2,000 years, ever since there was a man who decided that he himself would take upon himself to be pure, to be what was destined to fulfill a prophecy that had been going on since the time of Moses. You must begin to read and understand what you read. You must begin to stand on your own 2 feet and say to yourself, I want to know the truth, because the truth is powerful. The truth is a weapon. The truth is how we get to where we're supposed to be. We cannot live a life of lies. We cannot live a life of pain. We cannot live a life of sorrow anymore. It is time for us to see ourselves as who we are. Some of us, when we look in the mirror, we look at ourselves in a conceited view that we are beautiful, and all along on the inside, we are the ugliest creatures that could ever be made because we made ourselves that way. My admission to you is to look inward, look at your soul. Tell me the toll that believing in the enemy has done to you, where you feel cold and aloof, as if you're not a part of the world around you, as if you do not belong to the kingdom of God. We have traded in our souls for cereal, for milk, for McDonald's, for Burger King, for water, for a roof over our head. We live by the laws of man and not by the laws of God. For God has provided us with all these things for free. But under the reign of man, we must pay a price, and that price is steep. I know this because I live in one of the richest countries in the world. I live in one of the most powerful countries in the world. And as I look on into the third world countries, all I can do is sit and cry and moan because they are dying and we are feasting. They are dying and we are going to clubs. They are dying and we are complaining about wages of life. We must begin to roll back the tide and begin to say that we have enough. We have enough to feed those who are hungry. We have enough to feed those who need food and relief. We have enough to put a shelter over the head of the homeless, and yet we refuse to do those things. So tell me, what is the mark of the beast if it is not blindness to what the world actually looks like? If it is not blindness to the arrogance of the kings of men who sit upon thrones and watch their nations die of poverty, watch their nations die of starvation. I come to you and say, what if the mark of the beast is our spirit, our desires, our temptations, our pleasures, our passions? If it is not rooted in the passion or the desire to know more from the Lord, what is our desire then? What is it worth? I hear so many say that the mark of the beast is 666. Well, on the sixth day, man was created. On the sixth day, everything was completed. On the sixth day, man had a choice to name every animal, every tree, and everything in its inhabitants. And on the seventh day, the Lord took a rest. I say to you that you are looking for signs and symbols without understanding the truth of the signs or the symbols. Who was the snake in the garden? Was it Lucifer or was it something else? What is the mystery behind the virgin birth? Do you understand or do you lack the knowledge, the wisdom to interpret what is being said to you? The temptations in the desert with Jesus, the three temptations. What does those have to do with the New Testament? What do they have to do with Revelations? These are the questions that we must begin to ask. We must begin to ask, why did the disciples ask so many questions of Jesus and yet only receive parables from him? Almost like folklores and tales of passion, of a place where there is no more pain, no more hurt, no more division, where man and God exist as they did in the Garden of Eden. Why would he call the Pharisees and the scribes brood vipers, serpents that brew against the Lord? Why would he deny his name in Revelations and say that I come with a new name written on thy breastplate and thy plate, and the name of my true God written upon me? There's something more to the story. There's something more to what we have learned. There's something more to what we have been taught. There's something more than what we have chosen to believe in. And I come to you tonight to say that maybe the mark of the beast is in the soul. Maybe the mark of the beast is upon the heart. Maybe the mark of the beast is upon the mind. They said, Second Thessalonians says that the power of the Antichrist will be upon the land before the Antichrist even rise. That one would have to be removed out of the way before he is totally revealed. And once he is revealed, there will still be those who believe in the delusion and believe in the lie. He said that those who live by the sword shall die by the sword. Whatever their temptation is shall become their poison. I say that the kings of men live with fine robes and linen, as there are those who are homeless, and are there those who are starving, while there are those who have nothing. How just can a king be if he can sit at a feast while knowing that someone else is out there starving and dying because of him, because of his way he rules? If not, then why do you rule in such manner? I say that it's not all inclusive, where all can come and feast and dine at the same table. If there is a kingdom that's not all inclusive, where all have roof upon their heads, where they have no worries to worry about, where their needs are tended to and comforted when they need to, why? We continue to read the book over and over again, and yet we have failed to understand the lesson it was teaching, the lesson of discipline that the Lord has given upon us to learn. Trial and error. I say to you that we have gone through enough. We have seen enough to know that the mark of the beast is already being marked upon hearts and souls. We know that by those who rape. We know that by those who molest. We know that by those who kill. We know that by those who rob. We know that by those who are corrupt. We know that by those who are greedy. We know that by those who refuse to acknowledge the name of God. We know that by the way those portray what their religion is and yet are not. For it says in Revelations that they call themselves Jews and they are not. That he will come back and make war with those who put him to death. Why would he say such things, looking beyond the eons of time, and say these things in parables to us? So I say to you that while you're so busy wondering what the mark of the beast is, you need to be asking yourself, have you yet been marked? Have you yet been totally initiated into the realm of the world? He says, live in the world, but be not of it. Why would he say such things? If such things didn't have importance. I say to you that the mark of the beast is upon the heart, upon the soul, upon the mind. By those things, nothing can change the world. By those standards, we are lower than the dust that we tread upon. I say to you tonight, ponder as I get ready to teach so much more.